April Cool on Mondays, Maureen drags herself to the mailbox. She peeks in with anticipation, then slits open the envelope right there in the lobby. Her face always falls as she tosses the envelope, folds up the pink paycheck and shuffles back to the elevator. She mutters to herself something about the price of dinner. On Tuesdays, Kasia comes down the stairs with Milo, his schnauzer. He's the only one who's allowed a pet in this building, he's been here that long. He's generally cheerful, with something jovial to say to me in his still thick Polish accent, but after he walks his dog, he holds the door as if he were letting someone in before him, then laughs and comes in. I suspect he is still holding the door open for his wife, who the doorman, Nick, says died several years before I arrived. On Wednesdays, Imogen bakes. The whole building smells heavenly, of cinnamon and cloves, or lemon and lavender. Whatever it is she makes, she drops off one at my door, and I suspect many others. I've never seen anything at her door. On Fridays, Ibrahim and Sam go jogging together. She wears her tight magenta legging and headband, and he follows in his black shorts and purple hair. They go rain or shine, their faces glowing when they return. They never do anything more than wave bye and go back to their respective apartments. On Saturdays, packages go out. Piles of return deliveries, things for distant relatives, letters and even business packages pile up in the lobby. Nick counts them again and again, nervous to lose any. They topple over in the new pile, unbalanced, and he starts over. On Sundays, Frank has his kids, Maria and Juan. They get up early and go out for some adventure or another in the city, feeding the sea lions, racing across the bridge, looking for hidden caches. They come back carrying Chinese takeout and arguing about what movie to see. It's Monday again, and I watch Maureen as I get my own mail. Nick says to me, "Hey, come here, I've got an idea for a great prank for April Fools." What do you think? He wants to pretend like the door buzzer isn't working, and let people sweat a little. I chuckle lightly, but it seems a bit unkind to me. Kasia has a great April Fool's Day joke he tells every year. Who needs a day for the fools? I'm surrounded by them all year. He grins, his fake teeth gleaming and stretching the wrinkles on his face. I smirk back, it's old, and also a bit mean to me personally, but also has some truth to it. Imogen is full of such good nature she wouldn't pull a prank for the life of her. Instead, she tells each of us that there is a whole cherry, stem and all, in one of her cupcakes. Which one of you will find it? She challenges us. As they stretch and warm up, Sam tells Ibrahim she's going to tie his shoelaces together tomorrow, so he'd better watch out. He in turn tells her to sleep with one eye open. I wonder what he has planned. I head back to my apartment. The news is full of topics like, great pranks to pull on your coworkers, and 10 of the best April Fool's ideas. I feel a bit nauseated by all this, the subtle meanness, the trickery, even the word fool. The more I think about it, the more humiliating it feels. It's as if this day has become April Cruel Day. Instead, I want April Fools to be April Cool. Why not turn cruelty into kindness? I start thinking about ways to help out my neighbors. I check my bank account, that company bonus is pretty good this year. I write off a check for half of it, and Nick helps me with the mailbox key. I write out 4 invites for dinner in my best handwriting. And order a range of favorites. I head out next, to a few choice stores, picking up things like DVDs, carrying food and wine back, and making a couple of other purchases. I then hide in my apartment, using the oven for the first time in ages. That evening it all falls into place. In the morning, Maureen checks her mail. She gasps as she finds the check. It will last her a few months. Kasia checks his mail on the way in with his dog, his eyebrows raised at me. I say nothing, but smile. Sam and Ibrahim pick up theirs on their trip back from their jog, flushed and panting. They glance at the card, then at each other and blush. Nick is the next recipient. He finds his boxes neatly stacked in a rolling carrier he can move around in the lobby as needed. He's thrilled and moves them back and forth around the carpet just to try it out. He decides to skip the buzzing prank and instead holds the door open for everyone. Frank, Maria, and Juan find a bag by their box, a choice selection of family-friendly DVDs, individual bags of candy, and a giant tub of popcorn to share. Maria squeals, and she and Juan race each other up to their apartment. Frank runs along behind, a spring in his step. Imogen opens her door, holding a dozen coconut-covered donuts. At her feet, she finds a lumpy frosted chocolate cake, still warm. It says April Cool Day.
Fresh as snow, Irma and Justin McIntyre, after 50 years of marriage, found themselves falling into a daily routine. Every morning at 6 a.m., Irma would get up and go into the kitchen to prepare breakfast for Justin while he shaved and showered. They would sit together at 6:30 a.m. to eat a meal that usually consisted of boiled eggs, toast, and a bowl of oatmeal. Following breakfast, Justin would retrieve the newspaper from the mailbox, sit in the den by the fireplace, and read the paper until 8 a.m. Irma would clean up the breakfast dishes, then go make the bed and tidy up the bedrooms and bathroom before bathing. Usually, by 10 a.m., Justin was ready for a nap and Irma would fill in the time by gossiping on the phone with her friends from the bridge club. It was becoming a marriage of convenience more than a marriage of love and unpredictability as it was when they first met. Irma had convinced Justin that they should move to Florida after he retired. That was 5 years earlier. It seemed like a great idea to Justin in the beginning, however, as time began to pass, he started to miss his friends back in Canada. They did not have any family left. The one child that they had, was tragically killed in a car accident years before they had moved away. Irma, on the other hand, adapted to her new surroundings easily and made new friends very quickly. As Justin laid in bed, he started thinking back to the early years of their marriage when they could not keep their hands off one another. They would travel the world in search of adventure, taking in the beauty of nature and the amazing architecture of Europe. They never grew tired of each other's company. He began to wonder where it all started going downhill. They rarely talked to one another anymore, let alone touched each other. They even started sleeping in separate bedrooms. Irma said it was because of his snoring, but he felt there was more to it. At 70 years of age, Justin knew that he did not have the stamina that he once had. Perhaps, he thought, Irma was growing bored of him. He could not blame her though, he was growing bored himself. Just after lunch, Justin received a phone call from a friend he had made at the local barbershop. Louis Davidson was a former Navy man that served in several naval conflicts during his career. He invited Justin out to go fishing on his boat. Justin happily accepted and made his way to the marina. At slip number 30, Louis stood upon the deck of a 92-foot Sea Force 9 fishing boat. "Permission to come aboard, Captain?" Justin shouted up to his friend. "Permission granted." "Come aboard, sailor." Louis fired up the diesel engine and untied the spring line from the dock cleat before backing out of the slip. The sound of the engine reminded Justin of his younger days when he drove a tractor-trailer for a living. They slowly made their way out into the open waters and Louis pushed ahead on the throttle. The engine came to life and thrust the boat forward. The spray from the seawater felt refreshing on Justin's face, though the rough water further into the ocean was almost more than Justin's stomach could handle. He hung his head over the side and saw 2 dolphins swimming alongside them. Suddenly, his nausea began to disappear, and he began to enjoy himself more. They traveled about 30 minutes from shore until no sign of land or other boats could be seen. Louis dropped the anchor and prepared the fishing lines. Each was equipped with a Shimano Tiagra reel and 130-pound monofilament fishing line. Louis helped Justin strap into his harness, then he cast the line out into the water before placing the rod's handle into the holder. "My friend," Louis began saying, "you are in for a treat. This is my favorite fishing spot. I guarantee a hit within 5 minutes." No sooner did he finish talking when Justin's fishing rod began to bob up and down. Something was nibbling at the bait. Justin went to grab for the rod, but Louis told him to be patient. Louis carefully removed the rod from the holder, let out some slack on the line, then handed it to Justin. "Okay, Justin, when I tell you to, I want you to give the rod a quick yank back over your shoulder. Ready, now." Justin whipped the rod back over his right shoulder, barely missing the head of his friend. The fish was hooked and was trying to make a run for it. Justin nearly dropped the rod from the strength of the fish. Louis quickly grabbed onto the rod and placed it back into the holder. They let out some slack on the line and let the fish run before locking it back up again. The back-and-forth fight for supremacy between man and fish kept up for nearly 30 minutes until the fish finally stopped struggling. With the help of Louis, Justin reeled in the monster.